All right, folks, in this brief video, we're going to talk about the idea of financial intermediation. And that's just a fancy term for banks, the subject of banking. Now, banking is extremely important to the subject of macroeconomics because banks are almost like, in a way, they're like a part of the circulatory system of the body. You know, money is almost like the blood in a way, and banks keep the blood flowing constantly throughout the economy. And so without banks, there's no way that we would ever have the advanced society, well, advanced for us, advanced society that we have that allows us to buy and sell very efficiently and get all the stuff that we need and all the stuff that we want, okay? So, what is a financial intermediary? Financial intermediary is an institution that brings together savers and borrowers. All right, now let's define what is a saver and what is a borrower. A saver is those those providing money to be borrowed. And borrowers are those seeking to use other people's money. The money of others. All right? Now, why do people want to save and why do people want to borrow? Well, the main reason that people want to save is because they don't have anything that they want to do with their money right now. Remember, we just learned the three functions of money, and one of the functions of money is a store of value. We're going to save up our money and use it later, right? Well, while we're saving it up, what are we going to do with it? I mean, are we going to put it in a drawer in our room? What if the house burns down? We'll lose all of our money. So savers are looking for a safe place. Well, let's put it over here. A safe place to store their money, and they want to earn money on their money. So they figure, hey, while my money is sitting around doing nothing, what if I let someone else use it, and while they're using it, they can give me some money for using my money. And then later, when I want it to make my purchase, I'll get it back. Okay? That's the idea of a saver. A borrower is a person or a party, could be a company, that doesn't have money that they need. Needs money they don't have. Okay? Whoops, that's one extra E. Let's get rid of that. They need money that they don't have, and so what they want to do is they pay money to use money. They pay money to use money. That's the idea here. Since they don't have the money, they want to, let's say it's a business. The business wants to buy a machine that costs $80,000. They don't have $80,000 sitting around, so they borrow $80,000 from people who do have the money. And then they buy the thing they want to buy, and then they just give the money back later, a little bit at a time, okay? And that's one of the roles of banks, and that's the idea of a financial intermediary, is that in order for this saver-borrower thing to work out, here's the problem, without banks. So without banks, if there are savers and there are borrowers, here's how it's going to have to work. Let's say that you are a borrower. Let's say that you want to borrow $20,000 to buy a car. So in order to get $20,000 to buy a car without banks, you would have to go find a whole bunch of people who are willing to let you borrow money from them. So let's say you go find 200 people who all loan you $100, and that's $20,000. Now let me tell you the problem with this. And this is what you tell those 200 people. First of all, you have to convince 200 separate people. That's a lot of conversations. You have to convince 200 separate people to all give you $100. And you're going to promise them, hey, I'll send you a little bit of the money every month. Okay? I'll send you $2 a month for 60 months instead of 50 months because they want to earn interest back. We'll talk about interest in a minute. But here's the thing, in order to send all 200 of those people money, you would then have to buy 200 stamps every month. That's $100 worth of stamps. You would have to have 200 envelopes. You would have to write 200 checks. It would be very expensive for you to send 200 different payments to these savers every month. So it's very inefficient for borrowers to borrow directly from savers or from a whole bunch of savers. So savers send their money directly to the borrowers. Okay, they send money. And then borrowers, they pay back the money and they also pay what's called interest. Okay, well, what is interest? Interest, I'm going to give you a definition for interest. Interest is money charged and paid for using money. All right? And it is based on an interest rate. Well, what is an interest rate? An interest rate is, or rate of interest. So over here, I'm going to put interest rate. An interest rate is a certain percentage charged for the use of money. And it's usually based on the total value borrowed. So one way to think about it is if the interest rate is 5%, 5% IR, let's say somebody borrows $100, $100 times the interest rate of 5%, which is 0.05. 5% of 100 is $5. Therefore, in this case, the interest would be $5 based on the interest rate. $5 is the money charged and paid for using money. Okay? And like I said, it's based on the interest rate, and then the interest rate is charged based on how much is borrowed. Now, there's another phrase I use. My favorite definition for an interest rate is the price of money. It's the price of money. This is how people in the economy, in the financial world, this is how they see interest rates. It is the price tag on money. So when interest rates go up, the price charged for money is going up. When interest rates go down, the price charged to use money is going down. And this is a very important concept in all of economics. You're going to see this over and over again over the next several lessons. Okay? All right, so the borrowers, they pay the interest back to the savers along with the original money that they borrowed. And this is a very expensive and inefficient process. But if you put a bank in the middle or a financial intermediary, here's what will happen. Is savers will give their money to the financial intermediary. They'll collect money from a whole bunch of savers. Let's say they collect like $5 million. Then the financial intermediary can go to the borrowers and loan out the money. And the borrowers only have to pay back one. They can send their payments and their interest back to the financial intermediary. One check, one stamp, one envelope. Then the financial intermediaries will keep some of that interest. That's how they make their money, by keeping some of the interest. and then they will give some of the interest that they didn't keep back to the savers. And this is how banks basically work. You go to the bank, you deposit $300 in the bank takes your $300 plus $19,700 saved up by other people. That's $20,000 total. Now when the borrower goes to the bank to borrow $20,000, the bank will make one loan to the borrower, and the borrower will pay back one bank. And this makes things so much easier, because when it was 200 savers lending to the borrower, it took a long time for the borrower to find 200 people. It's easier for borrowers to find banks. They're everywhere, at least in the United States. They're everywhere. You can even find them on the internet. So financial intermediaries, they make the idea of saving and borrowing much more efficient. They makes saving and borrowing more effective. The whole process of saving and borrowing is so much better with banks than it is without banks. So that is financial intermediation.